All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Independent Podcast. I'm your host, Fernando Garcia, and I'm here with a very special guest. I'm here with Dr. Terry Hoskins. Terry, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity, Fernando.
You're welcome. For those of you who don't know, me and Terry actually both ran. He's still in the race, but for San Diego City Council here in District 9. Terry's still up and running, and he's got a big race and come November. And I want to here to share Terry's story. He's got a great story. We're going to ask him about some of the issues that are affecting us here in District 9 in San Diego. And just want to say thank you so much. At a certain point during the campaign, like any other campaign, we were somewhat obviously we're competitors. We're trying to give people different options. And Terry was always gracious and respectable. And I think that's so important in today's environment where people can come together and just have conversations and have difference of opinions and still leave as friends. Terry, I know Terry loves this country just as much as I do and wants to continue to always give back to it. And so just thank you for being a part of this, because I'm pretty sure the gentleman that you're running against would not do the same.
Well, I will try my best not to speak negative on that.
Yes. So let me ask you, Terry, tell me a little bit about yourself. If you tell the audience where you grew up, how you grew up, what that led to, and how you got to this point where you're at right now.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Again, I am so honored and privileged to be here. I've never seen a setup like this, so I am pretty amazed at this. And then, Fernando, your family, Cynthia, we just fell in love with you guys.
Thank you.
Linda and I, we gained a true friend.
Appreciate that.
And if it would have been you still going on, I would have totally been supportive, because you're a great guy, great family.
Thank you.
Great patriot.
Thank
you. We agreed on way more things than we disagreed on.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I hail from the great Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Nice.
I was born in a coal mining farming family.
Wow.
All my men in my family were farmers and coal miners, underground coal miners.
Yeah.
And I did not want to do any of that. The Marine Corps was my ticket.
Yeah.
I joined the Marine Corps in 1983 and found my way in California.
Yeah.
And been here ever since.
Awesome.
In San Diego County.
Wow. And I know, tell me about that. Did a lot of people in your family join the military? Was there a lot of people from your community join the military? Or was that a big jump for you? I mean, was that, tell me about that. What was that?
Yeah, so I'm from kind of the central west end of Kentucky.
Okay.
Have ties in the Appalachian area too. But it was one of these things where everybody did what everybody did. Your father was a coal miner. Your grandfathers were coal miners. Your uncles were coal miners. Yeah. And that's what you're supposed to do. Find a country girl, get her pregnant, get married, work in the coal mines. And I did not want that for me. There were a couple people in my high school. We only had one high school in the entire county.
Oh, wow.
A couple of them, you want to get down, Bubba? Okay. So a couple of them joined the Navy. Some joined the Army, but very few. Very few joined the military. Some went to university, whether it was a Bowling Green University or wherever. But I didn't think I was that fortunate. I was the first person in my family to graduate from high school.
Oh, wow.
My father was in the Air Force when I was not even here.
Okay.
And he was not thrilled that I was joining the Marine Corps. So I really didn't have a whole lot of support there. But it was the best decision I ever made.
Nice. What is that now? Do you do your boot camp over back in the East Coast, or do you do it over here in San Diego?
I should have done it. That's a great question. I should have done it in Parris Island.
Yeah.
But I was down in Texas working as a cement mason on Padre Island,
Okay.
outside of Aransas Pass
Yeah.
and Corpus Christi. And so I enlisted there. So that put me on the west side of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
So I ended up coming to San Diego.
Now, was that a pretty big culture shock for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, Texas was a big cultural shock for me in itself.
Yeah.
When I went to Padre Island or Texas to visit my sister, who was first down there.
Yeah.
It was during spring break when I went to Padre Island, and I'm like, what is this is insane.
Right.
But yeah, the whole thing in California, you watch movies, TV shows, and you see the Californians and you think they're just different.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know if I'm going to fit in. I'm a little country boy. But I loved it.
Okay.
And I totally my home.
Yeah. Nice. Now, after the Marine Corps, you became a police officer.
Yes.
And was that specifically right with San Diego PD, or did you start off somewhere else?
No, that was right with PD. So I decided to, and I did multiple deployments with the Marine Corps as an infantry guy my entire 26 years. Obtained the rank of Sergeant Major, which is prestigious in its own.
Yeah.
Without blowing my trumpet, I try not to do that. So I wanted to give back to what I thought is an amazing military community, which San Diego is.
Absolutely.
So as an infantry guy, and the coming from the Marine Corps, all I had was my associate's degree. It's kind of hard to I think your next stepping stones is a little limited.
Right.
So and I always enjoyed law enforcement. Never thought I'd be a law enforcement guy.
Okay.
But so I joined the San Diego Police Department.
Yeah. I know that. Now, what did you start off as? Like, were you just a regular kind of patrol officer? Was it a special unit? How did that all? Well,
you go to the academy 6 months, and it's a very difficult academy. It's easily one of the best ones in the country. And then after that, you have a 4-month field training where you go to different commands 1 month at a time, and you assigned a different field training officer, who the first couple months they kind of like help you, assist you, give you, and you pick up from them. You need to learn from them. But the third phase, or the third month and fourth phase, you're it.
Okay.
They're there to help you.
Yeah.
And then the fourth phase is you're on your own. Gotcha. He's with you or she's with you, but all they're doing is just evaluating you for the entire month. Anything you do right or wrong, they evaluate you. Yeah. And if you pass that, which is a lot of people do not, and they get rephased and so on and so forth. I was very fortunate that I got stationed in the Mid-City Division. Okay. The commanding officer of Mid-City at the time was a Captain Lawrence McKinney. Big, huge African-American guy from Texas, I think, originally, but just a sweet guy. Yeah. And he, I didn't realize that at the time, but he was also a Marine. Yeah. And he was also a drill instructor at one point.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so because of my career and my 3 tours on the drill field, he thought, I'll pick up Sergeant Major Hoskins. And so I went to Mid-City and I remained there. Yeah. So my entire 15 years outside of the academy and phase training, I worked the entire district at District 9. Mid-City is in District 9 as a patrol officer. Wow. I did 1 year plus as a special units bicycle command in North Park area and in the corridor area of Mid-City. And then I went ahead and got selected to be a community relations officer, which is amazing because you get a chance to work with the different communities, you interact with them more. Yeah. And at the same time, I could still do patrol stuff. I could still respond to radio calls. And so it's kind of like the best of both worlds. Yeah,
nice. Would you say being a community officer has given you insight that probably the average citizen doesn't have, and especially maybe the average candidate running for office doesn't have?
I totally would have to say absolutely. Okay. In a jokingly comical way, I tell people that I've been on every sidewalk, every street, every alley, every canyon, every creek, every stream bed in District 9 at one point or another. Yeah. And I've spoke to thousands of homeless people. And, I see what has worked, what has not worked,
Mhm.
what is working, what is not working.
Yeah.
I made really good friends. I lost some homeless, unsheltered folks. I probably made enemies.
Right.
I've arrested some and I've let some that I did not arrest for certain reasons.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I would definitely say it gives you a different perspective of listening to the communities.
Sure.
All of them are a little different.
Yeah.
You got your Talmadge community is totally different than the ones in Choice Creek or Azalea Park. But you hear all their concerns, whether it be they're tired of this, they're tired of that, they're not getting representation that they think they deserve.
Yeah.
So yeah, it totally brings you to a different perspective.
What are the things that you think, and I'm glad we brought up, or you talked about homeless. What are the things that we're doing good that are working, and what are the things that are not working?
People like to look at homeless and they like to put it in a cookie cutter situation where one thing fits all, and it totally doesn't. And at least I think now we're beginning to understand that it takes a bit of everything. It takes the housing first model.
Yeah.
It also takes the shelter first model.
Yeah.
It also takes like a navigation center to help people that maybe they don't need any of that.
Right.
They just they may need a little bit of extra money to help pay the rent, and they're good.
Yeah.
But so they don't need to go through all of that.
Yeah.
I think the unfortunate side, I think there's a lot of money. Matter of fact, I know there's a lot of money in the homelessness.
Yeah.
I think one of the good things is the people are starting to ask questions like, where's all this millions and millions of dollars going?
Right.
And what's the data?
Right.
Show me what's been successful and what isn't.
Yeah.
And you're a private business. This more than anyone.
Yeah.
If you have a program that's unsuccessful, you don't keep putting money in it.
Right. Right.
But we do.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great thing that people are beginning to ask questions. They're beginning to want to know answers.
Yeah.
And hopefully they're beginning to hold, our politicians accountable.
Absolutely.
For those decisions.
Yeah. It's almost like, when people talk about like the military industrial complex, we're almost having like this homeless industrial complex in California specifically.
Yeah.
Because of how much money is out there. Let me ask you, in terms of what are your thoughts in being a police officer about crime here in San Diego? I mean, what are we doing good, and then what are we doing not so good?
Well, one of the best things recently, that's a really hot topic, I think that we're doing well, was when the mayor picked Scott Wall to be the chief.
Okay.
I know people may say we should have picked someone outside of the area.
Mm-hmm.
And what Scott Wall did was a huge, bold move. Mm-hmm. He realized that there were folks in the top echelon that probably wouldn't agree with his philosophy. And he's basically restructured the entire upper echelon.
Yeah.
And in doing so, he made some of those people who were basically assisting chiefs either retire or get demoted.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so many of those are retiring.
Yeah.
So therefore, he promoted some to there's like a middle command echelon now called I think he called them commodores or commanders. And so he's restructured everything. Yeah. Well, that just means he's open to different philosophies. Yeah. One of the things, and I did my dissertation when I got my doctorate degree in public administration. My dissertation was on community policing because we don't do it well.
Okay.
And what I would like to see, what basically Scott was doing, was bringing his own philosophy into this. Yeah. And it needs to be. And I tell people, if you went out today, you or Cynthia Fernando, and you bought a 2024 car, whatever kind it was, you would not want a 1960s electronic system in it.
Right.
So why are we still policing with rules and regulations that some of them date back to the 70s and 80s?
Right.
We have evolved as a as a society, now we need to evolve also when it comes to philosophy with crime. And I think that's a great thing that Scott's doing. We still have crime. Property crime is killing us. Now they can say property crime is down, but it's down because people are tired of waiting for a long length of period on the non-emergency line to get a response. So they just, why report it?
Right. Yeah,
so I think that's one of the things we're doing right is that I like what Scott's doing.
That's good.
I think he is definitely the right person to take us into the next generation of law enforcement for San Diego.
Now, with being a police officer, some cops that I've talked to, with the job, there's a lot of redundancy. Would you agree with that, to where we could probably cut down on that and make the job easier or friendlier for?
There is. And people look at it being like a law enforcement issue. Why are you doing this? Well, we're doing it because our dispatch sent us on this call.
Right.
So it's not necessarily a law enforcement issue, even though dispatch is the one. So if me and you are partners and we're riding in a police car today and we're cruising in North Park and we get a radio call that takes us to the library in Kensington, well, we have to go to that library and we have to go to that call. We can't say, I'm not doing that. Well, and so the redundancy is there's times where we shouldn't go to those calls. There should be other, whether the organizations or whatever the case may be, to react to that, not us. But that's not our call. That's up to the procedures. And that's where I think Scott Wall will definitely affect that.
Okay. That's awesome. Now, what would you say, if I was to say, what are your top priorities that you think San Diego needs to fix and that you really want to go after and fix?
One of the biggest concerns I hear is there's no representation. People they submit things, emails, phone calls to elected officials. No one ever gets them. Get a hold of them. They don't return their emails, phone calls. And if they do, they're very condescending, especially if you don't agree with their ideations or their ideologies on what they're doing as an elected official. And it's not only just with the districts, but I hear that pertaining to the city level as well. So it's also to the mayor's level. And I realize they may be higher up. There's a lot of bigger fish to fry than return Terry's call. But there's a staffer somewhere who can return Fernando's email. And it doesn't take months to do it, or repeatedly emails or phone calls from a constituent to get that response. So immediately I would definitely want to be able to change the relationship between the people, the folks of District 9 and their representative.
And what I know there's some other issues out there that people talk about. I always hear homelessness, crime seem to be probably two of the biggest, because they affect so many. They affect small business. They affect your kid and your wife walking down the street. Playing at the park. All these things, but things like, for example, planning groups. And there's been a lot of talk about from the city level, kind of going into the planning groups and making some changes. Can you allude to or talk a little bit about that and what that's about, and what are your thoughts about planning groups in San Diego?
Planning groups have always been a very vital part of San Diego, especially growing the various communities. And what I've seen lately of all the meetings that I've attended down in city council is the city had one desire to go this one direction, to add density regardless of what it affects. And a lot of the community groups opposed that, and they kind of wanted it done smartly, not necessarily not to do it, but to do it what they thought would be smarter, more of a complete community concept. And so in doing so, it's definitely seemed like the city decided that they would restructure what community groups were. So they basically said, what you have now as a community group, you're no longer going to have at a certain time.
Yeah.
This is what a community group is going to look like. People have to resubmit, and then we'll help pick people for those jobs, for those volunteer positions. And so the community groups have changed. We saw that in Uptown, huge. You know, a lot of people voiced their opinion against it. Some voiced their opinion for it. But it definitely ruffled a lot of feathers. You know, and one of the bigger issues that I think the side that was on saying that they needed more diversity, I guess, on the planning groups. But the thing is, no one ever discouraged anyone from joining a planning group. It depends upon you have the amount of time to do it. And so I think that's one thing. I think planning groups need to definitely get back to the way it was. So it's more of a community base. And absolutely, there should be more diversity. But I shouldn't force other people not to be on a board. Because, I mean, there was one young lady, you may even know her, I won't tell her name, but she's a realtor. She's a private business owner, lives off the 50th Street. And she's been on a planning board for forever. Years. It seems like. And they said no.
Oh, wow.
You're not the type of person we want on the planning board. So they denied her. So that's not cool.
That's crazy. You know, one of the things that kind of got some steam during the primary, and it's still kind of an issue. It's a little bit. It got voted down by city council, but it's still somewhat of an issue. Is the replacement of SDG&E? Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean,
you know, I went and spoke with the original, I guess you would say, engineer that got behind it, Bill, and heard all the stuff about, you know, Power San Diego. And I even spoke at council that to me, it was one of those decisions that the people needed to make. I mean, you know, and anyone that's pay bills know that San Diego has been, I mean, the amount of money that they make is just unfathomable to someone like me. I mean, it's monopoly money. And they continue to raise, you know, prices. They continue to manipulate stuff. Well, we need this type of a fee, this type of a, you know. And so I thought at least Power San Diego, when they went before the city council, they should have voted to put it out there, let the people decide. But unfortunately, I think a lot of people on the city council are been getting kicked back somehow or another from SDG&E. I mean, they got that extended franchise agreement that, you know, one incumbent, you know, was the decide and vote for that. So, but all of them voted against putting it out there. And it wasn't like they were approving it. They were just, the proposal was to just put it out there, let the people decide what they want. And, you know, the nine people on the board decided that they knew more what the city needed instead of you or myself. And I thought that was wrong. But I spoke in opposition to that. I spoke as a great advocate for Power San Diego. I mean, again, you're a small business owner. Your business is greatly affected. And they're killing your business. They're killing the mom and pops business owners like yourself. And it's a travesty.
It's tough out there. But let me, what's the core thing of why you're running? What you know, I always tell when, you know, running for a political office, it's almost like you have to have a little bit of a screw loose, you know, to actually,
yes,
you know,
true.
And I'm guilty of it, you know, but you know, what, you know, because so many people love to have these political conversations and talk politics, but almost nobody actually says, I'm going to commit my time, my money, put my name on the ballot and go through the process. What is it about you that motivates you to actually do that?
Well, you know, so at the tail end of my career with San Diego Police Department, I was still a community relations officer. And during my time, my 9 years with that, I've seen 3 council members represent District 9. That was your, yeah. So of the 3, the last 2, Marty Emerald was the first one. I thought amazing. People still speak highly of her. Not everybody, but majority of the people love what she did, love what she tried to do, and still continue to praise her. The other 2, not so much. And the last one is the incumbent. And I kept hearing over and over again where the communities were just disenfranchised. As I said earlier, no one gets back with them. They, when they were running, they went around and said this, they got people's money. And now they're saying that the community is racist, but yet they live here in the community that's supposed to be racist, and so it's one of those things where the community, like, Terry, you're known everywhere in District 9. Why don't you run? And after a while, when rumor had it that I was going to run, then I was being reported on to the mayor's office for politicking in uniform. And it was like, so at the time, the chief at that point, Nislight, would call. I mean, I got numerous calls from it. Terry, what are you doing? Are you politicking? I'm like, first of all, no one submitted even paperwork for who's running. So how can you politic when there's no paperwork? No. I go, all I'm doing is voicing crime stats. And I'm very vocal, about, and you're right earlier when you said something that safety is the number one priority of mine. If people don't feel safe, nothing else matters. If you can't feel safe parking your car on the street, walking your dog, going to the library, going to the park, if you don't feel safe doing any of that, nothing else matters. And so when you get people that are constantly complaining, and I just voice those concerns. And so, you do have to have a screw loose. And I think probably you have many screws loose, and I do as well. I tell you what, I didn't expect. And again, I'm not a politician. I'm not polished. You can tell from this interview. I was not aware of strictly how large the political establishments are. They're huge. I mean, I'm like between a rock and a hard place a lot of times. Very similar to what you were when you ran. As a fellow Democrat, very little Dem organizations are going to support me because they have to support the incumbent. Regardless of whether or not they like him or don't like him, they have to either do that or not support no one. Republicans are not going to support me. Right. And there is really no independent organization. So mine is a grassroots effort, same as yours. And every day I'm so amazed on how big this establishment is. And it really makes you wonder, where's the little people? Where's the public? Where's their say so? And people they got to start voting to who they feel is the right person. Not just by name only, or not by position only, or party only.
Do you ever look back and think back to 6-year-old, 7-year-old Terry living back in Kentucky? As you said, small town boy. Kind of country boy.
Very, very much.
And then now you're a doctor running for city council in the 7th largest city in the country, and the most powerful country in the world. I mean, do you ever sit back and go, damn, how did I get here?
I often wonder, did I take the wrong fork in the road sometimes? Maybe someone else is supposed to have been destined, this destiny is for them. But I consider myself extremely blessed. I mean, in Kentucky growing up, again, my nearest neighbor was my grandfather, was a mile away.
Oh, wow.
My elementary school was 7 miles away, had a population to town of 300. Wow. I could hunt and fish anytime I want. and so I was so blessed for that. And then the Marine Corps taught me so much, and it expanded my horizon. I've, been to 27 different countries. Wow. And people really don't understand this sometimes, but I had many mentors, different races, gender, because in the Marine Corps specifically, they don't care.
Right.
Your performance is what dictates where you get rank wise. Yeah. And so I had some amazing mentors. Yeah. And then, joining the police department, unknowing at the time that I was so blessed to be stationed or be in working in a district that is the most diverse area in San Diego. Yeah. And we don't capitalize on that. Yeah. I don't think we utilize the multiculturalism that we have there. So I am totally surprised. Yeah. And at the same time, I feel myself completely blessed. And I also believe that there's a reason why. Yeah. There's a purpose for everyone. Yeah. And a good example, is in the military with the rank that I was achieving. I realized, and kind of as a police department too, you defend people who can't defend themselves a lot of times. Yeah. And when I found out, recently that the city council was trying to silence people calling in on virtual comments because of, they made up a lot of, they didn't make it up. They came up with reasons why, but still you're trying to silence people that may be handicapped, that can't take care, can't afford to pay parking, can't drive. Public transport is not reliable. Right. So I went and I spoke very much against that and about the council doing that. So, one thing I also wanted to ask about your time in the Marines is you obviously are a Purple Heart recipient. Yes. Tell us a little bit how, if you don't mind, if you don't want to, it's okay, but how did that come about? Well, I will just say that during my many deployments, a lot of them were in harm's way. Yeah. And I will say that, and I actually said this yesterday at council when I spoke about how the council was considering doing away with virtual comments. Yeah. I said that I served with a lot of men and women who were shot up, blown up, didn't make it back. Yeah. They served, I served to protect our democracy. Mm-hmm. And that's not the democracy that we fought for. Yeah. I feel guilty a lot of times, Fernando. Yeah. A lot of my Marines and Navy corpsmen now have still fight those demons that we have from PTSD. And a lot of the stuff that, a lot of the willpower I think that it gives me is I try to reach out to them as much as possible. Yeah. And they're all over the States. Yeah. It's very tough. Yeah. One of our dear friends, you're going to know him. I won't say his name now, but afterwards, that was part of Larry's campaign. Yeah, I heard about that. It's a never ending saga. No. And I'll just say that I was fortunate, the fact that I didn't lose a limb. Yeah. And that I'm here today talking with you, who I consider a great friend. Yeah, thank you, Terry. And that's I'm supposed to be here. Yeah, yeah. There's a purpose for you. There's a purpose. Yeah. Yes. I bring it up. My dad, when my dad came back from Vietnam, he had he always shared those stories. Felt very fortunate to come back, and and I just want to say thank you for what you've done. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. Taking on this next chapter of your life, this other fight, might have to give you another Purple Heart after this. Maybe. Maybe. It's a different type of fight. It's
because you're up against a big machine.
Yeah.
And that machine has a lot of power. And so I'm hoping that, people see that, who you are, that people connect with you.
Yeah.
And, I want to, end at this. If people do want to connect with you,
yeah,
and they do want to learn about your campaign, how would they do that?
Well, one thing I will say that, on my business, on my campaign cards, I always want to give my phone number out. I don't want you to talk to one of my staffers. I want you to talk to me. So my cell phone number is 760-807-9957. I would ask that you text first.
Yeah.
I don't, like most people now, I don't pick up because of all of the spam calls.
Sure.
But you can also, go to my website, www.hoskinsforcitycouncil2024.com.
Okay.
And, and I want to hear from people.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think here lately, I mean, with the national news and what's going on with that situation, who knows? I mean, there's just so much in doubt out there. But I will say, again, I am totally appreciative and honored that you let me come in your house and then showing me your amazing setup.
Oh, thank you.
And, and I'm just privileged that I hope I get to represent the great people of District 9, not ideologies, not advocacy groups, not, protesters. I want to support the people who really work day to day, do the hard work in the district and make it what it is.
Yeah.
That's who I want to represent.
Awesome. Well, everybody, I encourage you to go check out Terry's website. Give him a call. He's here to help us, and I will put all his information also in the description as well. So thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, we'll see you.